Listen, I've been going to a festival of media for many years, and I've always admired the process, the setup, the kind of consideration that's given to what wins and how it wins, and the kind of thought process behind it. So I've been an admirer for a long time, and to be part of it now is an absolute honor. So there was no chance I was going to say no when I was offered the opportunity. So yeah, I'm glad to just be part of that process and be able to kind of be there as a representative from the underserved communities and give a different point of view. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's so many topics that we could go to, but I think for me, there's a kind of a theory around what underrepresented lives are like. And I know we do a lot. I say do a lot, but there's a lot of talk around trauma and the kind of the downside to what some communities have to go through, which is none of these things are false. This is all true information, etc. But there's also another side to it. There's the joyous side to it. There's the lifestyle. There's the culture. There's heritage. There's all of the areas that actually some of that gets borrowed and used in advertising, except for the fact that the people that they're borrowing it from are then kind of excluded. So I would love to be able to see a lot more of the inclusion around reaching those audiences, valuing those audiences, understanding the lifetime value of those audiences, and bringing that more to the forefront. So it's great to make sure that the culture is represented, but equally it's important to then reach those communities that you're taking the culture from. So I would love to be able to see more of that sort of appearing in terms of who's being targeted. And that means that you don't wait for a specific DEI brief. You actually include or be inclusive in everything you're doing all the time, but not in a broad brush approach. You also still reach those niche audiences, speaking to them in their niche environments, whether that be through their publications or street level through targeted out of home. Those are the sorts of things I would love to see, is how are people actually really talking to those communities as part of their overall advertising. Yeah, definitely. The one that springs to mind most is Dove. I think a lot of the work that they do, they try and tackle lots of different really tough issues. They've created a platform over the last sort of 10, 12 years that has allowed them to be able to have that credibility, and to be able to take on some of those tough topics. Two that spring to mind. One is the Crown Act, which is a US based campaign, which looks at normalizing Black people having their hair just the way it comes out of their head and not being discriminated against, and being able to, wear your hair in plaits to go to work, or to have your hair out and, be in a professional setting. And those are the things that we tend to get discriminated against, and the Hair Act has really championed change. And that has all sort of sprung well, other things have sprung out of that. And so again, for Dove, the recent campaign around deep fake and ensuring that the kind of younger cohort of women coming through are not basically they don't feel that they have to be something that they're not online. They don't have to turn their personas into adult women when they're not. And that kind of approach to having those tough conversations, mother to daughter, and trying to look at the way that the impact of social media has on the impressionable young people, and their approach to it has been phenomenal. I think it's definitely a showstopper, and beyond just being there for the awards, is actually doing a great service to parents having those conversations with their children, around deep fake online. So yeah, that's a big one for me. I would say make sure that your activity aligns to you as a brand, and that you're not doing something just to be. I'm not going to use the word woke, because I'm going to take that word back. That is a great word, and it's been sullied. We'll
Right.
come back to that. But equally, don't lean into the stereotypes. Make sure your campaigns don't have too many normative cues. Avoid tokenism. And it's very easily done, and it's a thin line across all of those areas, because you want to be representative, but equally you don't want to have tokenism. You want to be representative, but equally you don't want to play into a stereotype and offend a whole a whole community of people. And equally, if you want to be representative, you don't want to imply any kind of normative behaviors that you believe a community should or do not have. Um, and then the other side to that is, don't expect multiculturalism to appear in your mind's eye the way you think it appears, because let's face it, LGBTQ people brush their teeth, Black people comb their hair, Asian people go food shopping. Like, everybody does the same things everybody does, right? So it's about representation, and then resonance, and then relevance. So making sure that your campaign is hitting those three things: representation at the broad level, resonance because it's about my culture and my community in a sensitive and positive way, and relevancy because it's actually hitting me in the locations, or in the publications, or on the streets that I live, in a really kind of meaningful way. We absolutely have a duty. Media is the minds of the world, right? It's if media says this is great, then we start to believe it. If media says this is not great, we also start to believe it. So it's our responsibility to try and champion the positive aspects of being inclusive, and making sure that that is done consistently and permanently across everything that we do. But we also have to be mindful of the fact that it's a marathon, not a sprint. These thoughts and behaviors didn't happen overnight. They're systemic and endemic behavior that's been ingrained into the society over hundreds and hundreds of years. So reverse engineering out of it is not going to happen in 2 years' time. So the challenge will be to not lose focus, and to not be fatigued by the concept that you have to continuously do this. This must become a standard part of your behavior. Um, and that is a challenge, because sensationalism is real, and people want to focus on the things that are most relevant and pertinent right now. And once that news story is over, and once that cycle has passed, then we're not so interested in it anymore. So it's actually on all of us to try to maintain the concept of doing good, and in being inclusive, and doing media responsibly and advertising responsibly, to be able to keep momentum going, and see seismic change that will happen over time.